what's good, y'all? It's Stinger, and today I'm going to be showing each and every one of you how you could push the boundaries and make some really weird Yeat type beats. In this day and age, the rapid progression of production forces producers to stay on their toes and constantly innovate. And I can't tell you how many times recently I've had artists ask for weird beats. So by following this tutorial, you'll have some tools in your back pocket that you can pull out when making those weird beats. And the beat that I'm going to be going over sounds a little something like this. So the first thing that we're going to break down is the melody. For this melody, I almost exclusively used Hive 2. And that is because even the stock sounds in this VST are freaking perfect for making weird beats. So the first thing that I used is the Marine City preset, and I just laid down this stupid simple melody in B minor harmonic. All I have is the repeating root note on B, and I'm also playing around with two of the half step intervals in this scale, being G and F sharp and D and C sharp. And after the first 4 bars, I double it in the octaves just to give it a little bit more depth. Now this first melody kind of just acts as a background texture, and this is what it sounds like. After that, I just copied that over onto a second patch of highs, being the AZ Saber Rattle, and I only made 2 changes to the melody. Firstly, I took out the G because I didn't like how it sounded in context with the rest of the melody, and instead of doubling it in the octaves, I just threw the original melody up an octave after the first 4 bars. So this is what that sounds like. And to really bring out the grit of that synth, I applied a bit crusher. The next thing I threw down is this like vowely synth, being the ETE rate cry. And I just have it playing our root note being B, and it moves up an octave after the first 4 bars. As you can tell, there's a theme throughout this whole melody of first 4 bars being down an octave, next 4 bars being up an octave. And that's something that I've been integrating into my melodies recently just to give them a little bit more depth and make them sound a bit more interesting. So with that being said, this is what this melody sounds like. The second to last melody that I threw down is using the defined pluck, and I just have this playing that main melody but with 2 differences yet again. Firstly, like the other melody, I took out the main G's that go right before the F sharp, but I threw in a G right here just to provide a little bit of contrast between the other melodies. And the final thing that I threw down is this bell. Now, usually with bells, I'll try to stick with the root note of the melody, but since this melody only has 1 root note, it sounded kind of bland just to have it only be on B. So for the first 4 bars, I have it mainly hitting on B, and for these next 4 bars, I have it hitting on E, which is the 4th degree in the scale or the subdominant. And then in between, I have these little sparse transition notes just to provide a little bit more variation. So with that being said, this is what our entire melody sounds like together. And I feel like that's a really cool basis for like a verse melody, but for the chorus, I felt like it lacked a lot of energy. So to introduce some energy and variation, I threw down Shaper Box 2, and I just have it on the time jump preset. So with the Shaper Box enabled, this is what the melody sounds like. So as you can see, the shaper box just brought out a little bit more energy in the melody and introduced a nice little rhythm for us to base our drums off of. And that's what we're going to be going over next. So for this beat, I have two different 808 patterns. The first one is just playing our root note being B, and it's playing a very basic drawn out rhythm. And there's only two really notable things about this 808. The first thing is that I have the envelope looking like this. That way when I hit the 808 and release it, it immediately cuts off. And I make use of these short cut off 808 notes to create some bounce in the beat. And the second notable aspect of this 808 is the roll at the end. For this, I just laid down a note, selected it, and hit Alt-U, and that brought up the chopper panel. From there, I just altered it to my liking and made use of those short cutoff notes as well. So this is what our first 808 sounds like. Now the second 808 pattern is very similar. The only thing that I changed is instead of just one long drawn out note towards the beginning of each hit, I use a rhythm that coincides with the shaper box preset. That way there's some correlation between the melody and the drums. So this is what the second 808 pattern sounds like. From there on out, the drums are pretty simple. The next thing that I threw down is this rim. After that, I threw down this accent snare just to give the drums some bounce, and I threw in this roll towards the end. Next, I grabbed a hi-hat MIDI from my Quasar MIDI kit, which you can get down in the description below if you so please, and this is what the pattern sounds like. One thing I will always suggest for hi-hat rolls is to use the 1/3 step and the 1/6 step. This is a very common method that Pyrex Whippa uses in his hi-hats, and he is commonly known for just being like the hi-hat bounce god. And that's exactly what I used for these rolls as well. And the final aspect of this beat is this open hat. Similar to the 808, I have the envelope looking like this. That way when I hit it and cut it cuts off the sound completely. And I just have it following a very similar rhythm to the 808. So altogether, this is what the drums sound like. Now, if you want to know how I mix my melodies, master my beats, mix my drums, or arrange my beats, you can check out the playlist in the top right, which includes videos where I go over all of those things. And the last thing to make note of is that I automated the Shaper Box 2 preset on the melody. And I have it set so that it's on during the chorus and it comes off during the verse. That way there is even more variation in the beat. So that's going to pretty much cover how to make some weird Yeat type beats. Hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial and learned something new. If you have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the comments down below and I will do my best to answer them. Also consider checking out my Patreon where I post the FLPs to all of my beats in all of my tutorials, including this one, as well as all of my sound kits. And finally, consider subscribing as I post 1 tutorial a week and 2 sound kits a month. Other than that, that's going to be it. Peace.